The next core concept that we'll discuss tonight is a reflection. A reflection is a transformation that flips a graph over a line called the line of reflection. So there are two lines of reflections that we'll work with. We'll reflect over the x-axis and we'll reflect over the y-axis. The most common type of reflection is the reflection over the x-axis. And so what we end up doing, if you notice this, if the original graph is f of x, then the reflection is the opposite of f of x, which means we're actually multiplying every output by a -1. So every output will end up changing its sign. And for the y-axis, if you notice on here that the negative is inside the parentheses, and so we're actually taking and multiplying the input by a -1 in order to get our points. So let's take a look at an example. So again, our original function is f of x equals 1/2 times x plus 1. And we want to do, they tell us that g of x, our translated function, is going to be the opposite of f of x. Well, it's easiest in this case if we just make a table of values here. And this is going to be our x, and we're going to have our f of x, and then we're going to have the opposite of f of x. Okay? So again, I'm going to plug in -4, -2, and 0 in this case. So if we plug in a -4 into this function right here, half of a -4 is a -2, and -2 plus 1 is a -1. And now if I take the opposite of that, that becomes a +1. Now I'm going to plug in -2. Half of a -2 is a -1, and -1 plus 1 is 0. The opposite of that is still 0. And then I plug 0 in. Half of 0 is 0, plus 1 is 1, and then the opposite of that would be a -1. Well, now let's graph that. Well, the first one, my original function right here, I'm going to graph just using slope-intercept form. So I go up to 1, and I go up 1, and I go over 2, and I have my graph. Okay? And if you notice, these points, the f, the -4, -1, are all right there. So now if I graph my other points, so the points I'm using, these are my x values, and these are my y values. So I have -4, +1, I have -2, 0, and I have 0, -1. And as you notice, this line here that we graphed, this line is a reflection of that one over that x-axis. All right? So now we'll take a look at the other one. All right. Again, here we still have our f of x is equal to 1/2 times x plus 1. And now we're going to do f of a -x. So again, I'm going to make a table of values. And what we plug in, okay, so this time we're going to plug in -2, 0, and 2. So those are what we're plugging in. And then I'm going to take the opposite of that. So in this case, that would be 2, 0, and -2. And then we're going to find out what f of a -x is, meaning I'm plugging in the 2 here. So I do that, and I plug that in, and then half of 2 is 2, 2 plus 1, or half of 2 is 1, 1 plus 1 is 2. Plug 0 in, I get 1, and I plug the -2 in, and half of a -2 is a -1 plus 1 is 0. So again, if I graph this original one using slope-intercept, up 1 and over 2, my graph looks like that. But now I'm going to graph the other point. And so the point I'm graphing, again, this is my x value I'm plugging in. and then this is what my y value would be. So I have -2, 2, okay, and then I'd have 0, 1, and then I have 2, 0, and there's my graph. And again, this time, this graph is reflecting over the y-axis. So when we take the negative times the value that I'm plugging in and then evaluate the function, then it reflects it over the y-axis. If I do it to the output, then it reflects it over the x-axis. And those are just the two types of transformations or translations that we're going to discuss tonight. And we'll have the other ones due over the weekend. So again, have a great evening, and go Titans, and be prepared to do as much as you can tomorrow in class with this.